So without much fanfare, the Marriage Law Survey Additional Safeguards Bill 2017 was passed by both houses on Wednesday. What this bill does is give the same-sex marriage survey the same protections and safeguards that are normally afforded to the federal election process, in addition to provisions against vilification. So why did we need this to be done? Well, because the survey is being conducted by the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the usual safeguards under electoral laws did not apply. And so this seems like a reasonable move, as the Australian notes. Much of the Marriage Law Survey Bill 2017 is worthwhile and necessary. It provides for adequate rules around the content of advertising and campaign material, including mandating authorisations. It ensures the public broadcasters will provide access to both sides of the debate and makes it an offence to threaten or bribe people over the postal survey. And according to the parliamentary website, it will apply in circumstances that previously were not required for elections, such as bulk text messages. I assume this is in response to Labor's Mediscare campaign at the last federal election, in which Labor impersonated a government entity, in this case Medicare, and sent text messages to voters warning them that the Liberal Party would privatise Medicare, which was, of course, a complete lie. But the bill also has another section related to vilification and intimidation. Specifically, a person may, for example, be liable to a civil penalty if the person vilifies, intimidates, or threatens to cause harm to another person or persons because of A. Views expressed or held or believed to be held by the other person or persons in relation to the marriage law survey question. B. The religious conviction, sexual orientation, gender identity, or intersex status of the person or persons. The maximum penalty for such an offence would be $12,600, and any proceedings related to the vilification prohibitions require the consent of the Attorney General. So on the bright side, I guess at least it doesn't include offend, like Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. So perhaps it's not a big deal as long as the debate is kept civil. No one will be hauled in front of a court for contravening this act. But there are those factions in the Labor Party, the entire Greens Party, and the Yes campaign that claim any debate at all about same-sex marriage would be too traumatising to the gay community, and that young people would run out into the streets and commit suicide. The same claim was made in Ireland in 2015, when in fact the suicide rate declined slightly. And so just having a debate constitutes vilification for some people. Take, for example, the tearful outburst in the Senate yesterday by Labor Senator Louise Pratt. Pratt has what she describes as a rainbow family. She has a son born in October 2014 whom she co-parents with her former partner Aram Hosi, a trans man and LGBTI community activist, alongside Western Australian State Labor MLC Stephen Dawson and his partner Dennis Lidlow, one of whom is the biological father. I don't profess to know how all that works, but anyway, here's what she had to say.
I'm sad to have to put on record today that I know from first-hand experience that the government should not be putting our community through this process. Something very upsetting happened to my own rainbow family this week. My 3-year-old son was down the local shop with members of my own rainbow family, just doing the shopping for the evening meal, when they were handed an anti-marriage equality pamphlet. And the pamphlet is too hurtful to repeat here. But it wasn't even about marriage, the quality of my relationship with my partner, or the quality of my son's dad's relationships. The No side isn't debating that because they know in the eyes of the community they have already lost that debate. This should not be happening, and the government should not be allowing it to happen.
Now, of course, because she won't tell us what was in the pamphlet, we can't really tell how hurtful it was, but let's take her at face value and say that it was hurtful. So what? It was a pamphlet. Just ignore it. Sometimes you hear things that you don't like. It's called life. Now, probably the best counter to this kind of emotional victimhood came from Senator David Leyonhjelm last month when making a speech in the Senate on same-sex marriage, which he supports.
To those LGBTI lobbyists who oppose the plebiscite because it gives a voice to homophobes, I say, harden up. You may not want to accept it, but homophobes already have a voice. And guess what? They'll continue to have a voice for the rest of time. It's called a free society. Your suggestion that an acrimonious debate will prompt suicides and other mental health issues in the LGBTI community is obnoxious. These are normal people, not mentally fragile little daffodils affronted by name-calling. Those people who believe gay people are too weak or fragile to withstand a public discussion are just perpetuating a homophobic stereotype. If such a view was accepted during the civil rights debates in the US last century, women would still be languishing in the kitchen and blacks would be sitting at the back of the bus. They also constitute groups with higher rates of mental illness and can therefore be considered more vulnerable. I wonder how Martin Luther King might have reacted if he was told to refrain from too passionate a debate, lest there was blowback against psychologically fragile Negroes.
Exactly. Harden up. It's a message you don't hear often enough. Tanveer Ahmed, in his book Fragile Nation, noted that Western conceptions of self have changed from viewing people as fundamentally resilient to innately fragile. But while we might laugh at these emotional invalids, our legislative bodies at both the state and federal level continue to prioritise the feelings of the easily triggered over free speech and free expression. Again, the vilification section of the Marriage Law Survey Bill is not a major impediment to free expression, but as Senator Leyonhjelm said, there will always be bigots of some stripe or another, and that's part and parcel of living in a free society. So rather than hiding behind the skirt of the nanny state when you hear something you don't like, harden up and use your right to free expression to make yourself heard. So is Senator Leyonhjelm right when he tells us to harden up? Or is he just a big meanie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you next time.